Today we'll be going over Proposition 187, what it was, why it's important to Latino history, and how its effects are still present today. To give context, California during this period of the 1990s was experiencing an economic recession, and California was faced with the challenge to decrease government spending. In response to the economic downturn, Prop 187, proposed by Republican Assemblyman Richard Mountjoy and supported by California Governor Pete Wilson, was proposed as a cost-cutting measure. In short, Prop 187 allowed for government employees to deny undocumented immigrants the ability to receive government services, such as non-emergency healthcare and public education. The harsh treatment was designed to discourage future illegal immigration from the southern border and to stop tax money from being used on non-U.S. citizens. Ultimately, Prop 187 passed with 58% approval of voters and would later be struck down by the federal courts. But what is most important to us is its impact in motivating the Latino community to be more civically engaged. In attempting to pin the economic downturn on undocumented immigrants, Proposition 187 portrayed undocumented immigrants in a negative light. Inside of Prop 187, it allowed government employees the ability to report individuals that they believe to be illegal. By requiring teachers and other state-funded professionals to report suspected illegal aliens, Proposition 187 effectively aimed to transform them into extensions of immigration enforcement, with consequences for all Latinos and persons of color perceived to be undocumented. A news article from the Los Angeles Metro News, Prop 187's Quiet Student Revolution, describes the Latino response to the proposition from a student perspective. In addition to the visible forms of protests, such as walkouts, young Latinos also used the movement to educate themselves about the implications of Prop 187. For example, the Latino Club of Cleveland High School researched and staged a day-long forum in their gymnasium where guest speakers spoke for and against the proposition. In Belmont High, students engaged in telephone banking. In Roosevelt High, economics and government teachers used the class as a place to discuss the potential effects of the proposition. And after school, students marched against Vaughn's and Arco gas businesses that supported Governor Wilson. Prop 187 was not only an opportunity for students to learn about civic engagement, but for them to get involved in it as well. Libertad Ayala, a high school student, describes in the paper, quote, "The people who wrote this initiative never counted on so many young people getting in politics in this way." The broad interpretation of 187 posed a threat, as some Latinos viewed the proposition as a means to discriminate against the Latinx community, as it would force Latinos to have to undertake the burden of proof anytime that their status was put into question. A student involved in the protests describes his motivation. That quote, "There was a discussion and a lot of jokes around high school. People would say, 'You guys are going back to Mexico.' There was so much passion involved, a sense of frustration and stabbing in the back. Because here are my parents, working in the fields, picking crops, and here's this legislation being written. Even though we weren't undocumented anymore, we felt threatened." End quote. After Proposition 187, Latinos in California became more politically involved. Between the 1990 and 1994 elections, Latino turnout increased from 28.8% to 43.4%. Equally as important, young Latinos gained the motivation and the experience that would help them pursue positions of political influence inside of California.